Why, hello. It is a day. That is some time. I was just, I've probably covered it before, but things that you can do sometimes to help you collect your thoughts, take a shower. While you're sitting in the shower, just think about stuff. Like, where's my coffee cup? I mean, maybe not that, admittedly. But you could think of stuff. One of the things I like to think about is, like, if I had 3 wishes, what would they be? You could constrain those wishes by coming up with constraints. Like, a cool thing, I think, it's like, what if those wishes are unrestricted? Right? What if those wishes were completely unrestricted? Like, I just wish that I could fly. Like, without any assistance. I could just, like Superman, lift myself off the ground at will, using nothing but my birthday suit. That's a cool wish. Maybe your wish would be, you could think bigger, like, oh, maybe I wish I was just like, I had all the powers of a deity. That's wishing big right there. That's a big one. Maybe it's, who knows? In my infinite wisdom, I don't think I would ever make the wish to have the powers of a deity. That's a lot of responsibility right there, yo. Responsibility that I don't think my piddly little human brain could handle. Just think, like, if you had the power of a deity, your thoughts become dangerous as hell, right? You're like, man, that dude sucks. I'm fucking mad. I wish he didn't exist. And then, there he's gone. You're like, oh, shit. Yeah, that would suck. Yeah, you totally have the capacity. I mean, I guess you could also wish, well, I wish I didn't think that. I wish I hadn't thought that and then change it back, I guess. But I don't know. I just feel like, what a awful circumstance to be in. Like thought crime. Like, granted, maybe there's not other people around. No one can hold you accountable because is there another person like you? But the power of thought becomes extremely dangerous and a very potent weapon. And as such, right, like, the idea of thought crime, right? Like, if you classify your own, I think you would be justified in classifying your own thoughts as crime. We'll put it that way. That's a very awful situation to find yourself in my personal opinion. Awful. I would not want to be in that position at all. So I wouldn't go that far. I would never make that particular wish. However, I might wish for the powers of Superman. I think that one's a little bit easier to deal with. That's still within the realm of, I am the like, my actions have consequences, and I'm willing to own that, because because I have to actually and assuming you can control your powers really well, right? Like that would, you'd say, I'd want the power of Superman in the same way that the imaginary Superman has them, but manifest in reality in some way, right? Like, for instance, they could, if you were like a nefarious wish granter, you could say, I wish I had the powers of Superman as imagined by the imaginary character Superman. Well, then maybe you'd have imaginary powers, and so you would just be like the same. The wish wouldn't do anything. But no, the idea of actually being able to fly around and do stuff. Because there are some consequences that I'd be more than willing to place on the world if I had the powers of Superman. Because, for the most part, no one on the planet would be able to hold you accountable. Unless the Wishmaker was nefarious and put kryptonite everywhere. Right? There would be nobody to hold you to account except for yourself. Which I'm actually... I know it's ego. I know it's awful to think this way. Dangerous. But I think I could wield that power. I think I could. I think I could do it responsibly, too. Yeah. The world needs fixing. I guess it's whatever. Probably too late for all that. It is what it is. Another wish you could make, you could go to the biblical route and be like, I wish I was the wisest person on the planet. It's a good wish. Damn good wish. However, wisdom is rather limited. Because you can be the wisest person on the world, but if you don't know everything, right? To me, wisdom, if I was to give a description to wisdom, wisdom would be your capacity to use what you know to achieve your goals. Whereas in intelligence is how easy it is for you to learn things, right? How easy it is for you to absorb information. So they're different. Obviously they're different. That's why we have multiple words. But there's also resourcefulness, which is different. Wisdom is the capacity of you to leverage your intelligence to achieve your goals. Intelligence is your ability to absorb information. Resourcefulness, that one is your ability to leverage your surroundings and environment to get resources that you need to drive your intelligence or your wisdom or just activities that you're just doing, right? So intelligence, resourcefulness, and wisdom. Man. Weir. W-I-R. R-I-W? Nope. I guess you can't make a thing out of that, huh? Be cool if you could. Because those are the things I think you might want to wish for if you have 3 wishes. Here's another one. Although this one's less good overall. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's an excellent wish. It really is. Like, if you trust yourself quite a lot, right? You could just kind of cut to the chase and say, I wish that I had the ability to beam my thoughts with perfect accuracy into other people's heads, regardless of language barriers or anything else. I'm just able to just boop, transfer thoughts in their most pristine interpretation from one person's head, with faithful representation. I'm able to beam those thoughts into my head. I'm able to take the thoughts that are in my head and beam them to other people. I could serve as a mediator. I could serve as a person who collates all the data on all the intellectual, So I could be like, there's so much utility to that. Just one, I wouldn't call it telepathy because it's not exactly telepathy. It's more like you're downloading and uploading, but you're doing it wirelessly with people's thoughts. That'd be awesome. That would be an awesome capability, right? And then on top of that, I wish I had the wisdom to use that knowledge, in the most effective way possible. The knowledge that I would gain in that way. Oh, and the stipulation on that upload-download thing is like, I'd want to be able to do that without overriding my own thoughts. Like, in other words, I'm me now, and then I go over to somebody else. I download their thoughts, and it overwrites my own memories. And so now I'm like, so it's useless. Because now I'm basically just a mental clone of the other person. That would be horrible. Yeah. Good wishing, though. All of those wishes take you to a point where you are in a time and in a place where you could literally transform the planet. You could transform the planet. The reason you'd want to also wish for Superman abilities on top of all that is because I'm pretty sure if you actually had all those abilities, in short order, if you were trying to actually improve the place around you, you're going to make yourself a target. And so all of the potential good that you could do would be squandered immediately if you were able to be assassinated or murdered. Or in the case of, like, if you just wish for, like, invulnerability, that's like a trap. You'll just end up, it's like, oh, you're invulnerable, but you're not super strong. Okay, well, we're just going to detain you then. And so now you're just locked away. But you're invulnerable, so we can't kill you. Does that mean you can't be tortured? See, with Superman, like, you would anything you tried to do to control him would end badly. Like, it wouldn't work. He doesn't have to even raise a finger at you in violence because what are you going to do to him? As long as he's the only one on the line, there's nothing really you can do to him conventionally, right? So that's pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome power set. It's a way to protect the other wishes so that you are around long enough to actually bring humanity to a place that's like awesome, to take us to Star Trek. Wow. Star Trek as defined by Gene Roddenberry, Anything post Roddenberry is fuck all that nonsense. Yeah. Miss Gene Roddenberry, man, I really do. Well, it is what it is. Yeah. That's how I feel about it. It is what it is. But anyway, you could think about all those kind of things. I just gave you all the stuff I thought. I'm sure there's some really good zingers out there somebody could come up with. Those are the ones I came up with. There's perfect persuasion. Perfect persuasion. The ability to perfectly persuade anyone of any proposition. There's a part of me that's like, that one would be another good one to have. But I feel like that one has some of the same issues that the other ones do, because then I could perfectly persuade somebody of something that's not true, and that's a big responsibility. Now, you'd think you'd be able to control it, you know. Because it's kind of like Superman, right? If you have restraint, you should be able to control your actions. But that's one. I find that one far more insidious than the Superman powers. Superman powers is like, I'm not perfectly persuading anybody, you know, against their will. The whole thing. I'm not perfectly persuaded. I might intimidate them. I might make them be like, I'm afraid to voice my own opinion. But I think I could keep that in check. But like, if I have the ability of perfect persuasion, how easy is it for me? Okay, so I've manipulated this person to believe X. Okay. Now, is it possible to have a real conversation with them anymore? You know, that could, I think that power could make you incredible. Like, as lonely as Superman powers could make you, the ability of perfect persuasion is an awesome responsibility, because at what point do the conversations you have lose their meaning? Like, if I'm able to perfectly persuade people of what I want them to believe, then I can't have a real conversation. What's going to keep me in check? Like, if I start to drift, if I start to lose sight of things, if I start becoming tyrannical, if I start using that power for evil, you know, can anyone call me out on it? Probably not, because they would try to tell me, and then most people, even people that have the best intentions of the world, they're prone to not listen when it hurts their ego or something, you know. So they're gonna say something, and then I'm gonna say like, "Oh, well, that's not true," and blah blah, and I'll give some kind of rationalization of why that's not true, and then they'll be like, "Yeah, I agree with you," and then I'll be like, "See, I was right." Right? So I could easily fall into a trap of a lonely, depressing echo chamber. So, screw that. I think like the upload download. If you want to go that route, just do the upload download thing. Do you know wisdom, intellect, and resourcefulness. You know, try to get like the maximum amount of that stuff that you could get with the number of wishes you have, and then hope that using that information you will be able to convince people of propositions, because you might not have the ability to do perfect persuasion, but you'll have the ability to understand where people are, where they're coming from, what their goals are, what their thoughts are on the matter, unperturbed, right? You're not getting filtered. You're not getting lost in words. You have perfect communication, basically. And then you have the wisdom and the intellect, possibly the resourcefulness, to persuade them, and you also have the ability to determine the most objective truth that you could arrive at, by scraping the minds of everybody that you think might have good answers, or good perspectives, honest perspectives on things, or even if they have dishonest perspectives, they have a real perspective too. They just don't voice it, right? So you can scrape people's thoughts for trying to get all of the different perspectives that need to be known to actually make an educated, wise, objective, to arrive at some semblance of truth, and then now that you know truth, you can use your wisdom to figure out, like, okay, well, what do we do with that truth, and then you're able to constitute better conclusions, and then you're able to put those conclusions back in other people's heads, and then they can see those conclusions and all the logical underpinnings and worldview pillars, pillars of knowledge and pillars of belief. They have all of the component underpinnings, logical underpinnings, to see how that conclusion stands, and is reasonable, and is they see what you see, right? You can beam that in their head, and that there's not a miscommunication. There's not a word you can use that would be misinterpreted. They have the idea in their head, and if they reject it, you could actually beam that rejection back into your head, evaluate it, and then be like, is this person like a good person or not, or are they just but like I just don't see that. Like they're probably psychopathic or something, right? Like they're just self-serving, narcissistic people or whatever, like that's the only time that wouldn't be effective, is when people are neurologically divergent in some kind of form or fashion. Because otherwise, you should theoretically have the ability to convince people just about anything, But you actually do it by actually convincing them. That you do it by showing them, not by something else. So that's how I think I would want it to roll. You have the inadvertent power of perfect persuasion, probably based on that. Anyway, stuff to think about. Sometimes it'll help you contact, if you put constraints on it, like you say, oh, well, you can't have magic. Oh, okay, well, then it'll change the wishes, and then you'll come up with different wishes, and coming up with the different wishes will help you have insight into, like, who you are as a person, how the world works, or how you think the world works, I should say, stuff like that. It's kind of, they're fun thought experiments. Yeah. Well, I guess that's it for now. Later.